Hunger, disease, and poverty are plaguing our world. Stay tuned to meet two people who are determined to ease the suffering with a unique recipe for success and the abundant life. My name is Yvonne Shelton, and you're watching Urban Report. Hello and welcome to Urban Report. My guests today are Joy Kauffman, founder and executive director of Farm Stew, and Susan Cherney, chair of the board of Farm Stew. Farm Stew is an organization dedicated to helping to alleviate hunger and poverty utilizing biblical principles. Welcome to Urban Report, Joy and Susan. Yay!
Thank you so much.
Oh, I'm so glad that you all are here. I had the opportunity to look at the website, your website, and I saw what your ministry is doing, and it is just amazing. For those who don't know about Farm Stew, tell us, Joy, you are the founder and executive director. Tell us, what is Farm Stew?
Well, it's my privilege to be here, and I tell you, Farm Stew is my favorite topic because I believe, as you mentioned, it is a recipe for abundant life. It's a training of trainers program that equips people with the capacity to solve their own problems and become not dependent on others, but dependent on God alone, and gives them the practical, hands-on, biblically informed skills to have an abundant life, have children that can thrive, and communities that, are just a city on a hill shining out for God.
Well, what made you decide to do this?
Well, it's been a long journey that I believe God has set me on since my own childhood, but I actually became a vegetarian when I was a young girl, and nobody in my family knew any vegetarians. I didn't become an Adventist till my 40s, but at the time people thought I was going to become malnourished. And so this idea of what is malnutrition sort of came into my mind. And then later I realized that there was billions of people on the planet that don't have access to clean water or sanitation. And so when I started learning more about the Adventist Church and our health message, I realized, if God is a God of the whole world, and the call of Abraham is to bless all the families of the earth, there has to be a health message that's biblically informed that will be a blessing, even to those that maybe don't need any more fresh air, exercise, and sunshine. For example, those that have to walk for water for miles a day, they wouldn't be blessed by being told to get more fresh air, exercise, and sunshine. But they do need, like I said, clean water, sanitation, enterprise skills to start their own jobs, things like that.
So you're really approaching this crisis from various perspectives. So you're looking at helping people with their health, because a lot of times with extreme poverty, there's disease. Mm-hmm. Helping them to be self-sufficient because they are poor and they need to know how. It's not just about giving them money, it's about helping them to be self-sufficient. So you're doing that. And to me, that is just so, it's meeting them at their point of need, which is what Jesus did.
Amen. Absolutely.
Right? He met people at their point of need, and then he dealt with them where they were.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And that's what you're doing. I mean, this is it's such a great thing. As I was looking at your website, I thought, wow, this is such an amazing ministry. How did you get involved, Susan?
I was grew up and my family did ministry outreach and various programs, was always very interested in health and nutrition. And I actually went to a conference and I met Joy. I saw the Farm Stew booth. And when I saw the Farm Stew booth, I thought, what is this? I like all of this. This is really exciting to me. It just all came together. It fit every need. And so I met Joy, and I'm actually an attorney. And so she was like, I need an attorney to be part of our board. And I was like, absolutely, and jumped right in. And I became chair of the board in 2018. So within that time, the organization has really, really grown. Joy does a fantastic job as the executive director, and we're just very blessed.
Yes. So what does Farm Stew, it's an acronym, what does it stand for?
Yes, so it's 8 letters, and we call it the recipe for abundant life. So each letter is an ingredient in the recipe. And I tell you, our secret sauce is our trainers, the local people that bring this message out to the people. But the recipe itself is farming. So we have the foundation of how do we grow our food? How do we actually also start enterprise through farming? We work on changing the attitude also. So oftentimes people that are suffering from hunger, disease, or poverty, they have a very negative attitude or maybe disempowered attitude. So using the biblical wisdom on how to really change our thought patterns. Rest, we talk about rest for the bodies, rest for the soil, and really the Sabbath rest as well. But always building into the Sabbath commandment the fact that there was 6 days you labor and work. So then you have the rest that's a result of the work. That gets us to the M for meals. So we teach the whole food, plant-based meals. So that's farm. And then we have stew. And stew is sanitation, temperance, enterprise, and water. So each of those you could unpack for a long time, but they're powerful, these 8 ingredients coming together. And I'm actually trained at Johns Hopkins in public health, and I'm a nutritionist. So these are informed by international development, public health, education, nutrition. So it's a powerful recipe.
That is, and so tell us about the trainers, because that you're saying that that's your secret sauce. Tell us about the trainers. How does that work?
So in these countries, I started the organization in Uganda, and I was there as a volunteer with a short-term USAID-funded project. And when I went to church, at the time I actually hadn't gotten baptized into the church yet, but I went to the Adventist church and I met people that were just phenomenal. And some of them actually started volunteering with me right away, going out into the villages. I was teaching some classes, and they came alongside. And God really impressed me to hire the local people, and that would be a way that the work that I was doing that I knew could save lives of malnourished children in these villages, that it could carry on even when I went home to my own children. And so we now have over 100 staff that are local in South Sudan, Uganda, and now we've just launched a huge project in the Philippines. And then we have different partner organizations in several other countries, 6 other countries. So we are growing, as Susan said.
That's wonderful. What's your latest project?
Well, I was just in the Philippines, and we have started a partnership with Adventist World Radio. Dwayne McKee invited us to come in. And that was a result of a conversation. I'd heard about all these baptisms of these former rebels that were previously assassins in this mountain rebel skirmishes that were going on. And now they are fully reconciled. So it was FRs, they were former rebels, now they're fully reconciled to Christ. But I said to Pastor McKee, do these people know how to live a fully reconciled life? And as he thought about it, he realized that Farm Stew was the answer to the next process of discipleship of these new converts. And so that's a big project. We actually have, we just got back from training the new trainers and the staff, and I was up in the mountain villages and seeing the people that they're going to be serving firsthand, and it's very powerful.
That's tremendous. I had heard the story about the former assassins who now have become reconciled to Christ and reconciled with each other. These are like opposition groups and stuff, and it was just, to me, amazing. Look at what God can do. But it's interesting because you look at, they're here, but now what's next? So now you're providing, by the grace of God, providing that next piece. Again, look at God. He's not just leaving them without knowing what else to do or how to sustain themselves. Now you're bringing in this whole other piece. Do you have some pictures with you?
So you can see we were here with our trainers, our new Filipino trainers at the evangelistic series, and it was so exciting. There was actually thousands of people in the audience and hundreds got baptized. And now these new rebels, who are now fully reconciled, are going to be bringing the recipe for abundant life up into the mountain communities where they live.
Oh, so each one is going to take a region, and or are they working in teams, or does each one take a region and go like that?
Well, just like the Bible, we're sending them out 2 by 2. And these are mountain villages, so they're very remote. In fact, I walked up to one with a couple of our colleagues, and it was challenging. I actually slipped and fell in the mud a few times. But it was amazing, and it's just so exciting because, you know, the people up there, it's indigenous people, and they don't have much of anything. And yet we met some missionaries that were up there that have gardens and had a beautiful Seventh-day Adventist church up in the mountains. So God has a place in his heart for these people, and they're part of the Every Nation, Tribes, and Tongues.
Oh, yes. Oh, for sure. For sure. And that's the thing. I mean, God doesn't forget any of his children. Yes. So those who live in the most remote parts of the world, I mean, Jesus died for all of us. So wherever anyone is, the blood of Jesus covers everyone.
Amen.
So.
And you mentioned children. I have a picture of this one mom with 2 of her kids. They just touched my heart.
Aww.
Like, yeah, they were such precious children. And, you know, a lot of times these kids, they're actually eating this little beetle nut. And apparently it's this little kind of seed. And I asked, why do they eat it? And they actually said that it dulls the sensation of hunger in their stomach, and that's why they eat it.
Oh.
And that just broke my heart. I thought, goodness, can't we grow? There's beautiful food. It's a tropical kind of environment. You know, food can grow there as long as they're taught how.
Yes, and that's, again, excuse me, it's so beautiful that that's what you're doing. You're not just going up there. You're not just saying, oh, are you hungry? Well, you know, do for yourself. No, are you hungry? Let's show you how to grow your food so that you don't have to be hungry anymore. And not just grow your food, but now you can also maybe sell some and generate income. I mean, that's wonderful. But oh, my heart breaks too from that story about it dulls the sense of hunger. That is just, it just breaks your heart. It breaks your heart.
It's also nice that, I mean, for training, so that it's not as if someone is giving them something and then when they leave or when they run out, they have nothing left. They can continue to thrive even after our trainers are gone. But in their own country, the blessing of them learning for themselves is that they can go deeper into places that we would never be able to go. So it just continues to move forward.
Yes.
Well, and that leads us to this map that we have that shows where God is taking us, not just in Africa anymore is where we started, but God is expanding through partnerships into South America and also into Asia. And we're so excited about our ministry partners. Going into Cuba, we now have it in Spanish, our full 400-page curriculum. In Spanish, we have it in Tagalog, which is the language in the Philippines. And we're entering into the 1040 window in Arabic, as well as Swahili. And it's very exciting what God is doing. And the demand for this curriculum is so great. And that's why we're really calling this year the year of stretch. We want to stretch further and further.
Yes. Now, how are people hearing about what you're doing? How are you letting people know about this amazing ministry?
Well, honestly, 3ABN is a tremendous blessing to us. We don't have a lot of marketing budget or anything, and so you and your listeners are just so, just a powerful force behind this ministry. Often I talk to donors and they say, I saw you on 3ABN, and that warms my heart, and I actually want to come and thank you for sharing your airwaves with us.
Oh, praise the Lord. It's a blessing to be able to give you a platform to let people know about what you're doing. I mean, this is one of the best marketing strategies you could have, actually, because by the grace of God, it reaches the world. So, and people have such needs. And one thing about our 3ABN viewers, I have to say that They are so responsive, and I just want to say thank you to you for hearing today and watching, and for catching the vision, because this is really important. You know, earlier, you and I, Susan, were talking about the girls. Tell what you're doing, what Farm Stew is doing with the girls, please.
Yes, and that is a very exciting thing, and it falls under our letter S of Farm Stew, of sanitation, and that is providing young girls kits that contain reusable pads, and so that the girls can go to school. Because what people don't realize is a lot of these young girls, when they turn 12, they don't have products, and so they have to quit school, and that helps create poverty. I mean, they can't finish their education, they can't get other jobs. It also affects their children when their children are raised up. So through your donors and through others that have provided the funds, we've now been able to give out 15,000 kits to girls in Africa and also in Cuba. And within the kit are reusable pads. And we didn't know at the time, we thought, great, we're giving out reusable pads, but didn't realize that girls don't have panties. So we also partner with an organization of people that are deaf, and they make the panties that we can put those in the kits that the girls can take. So that's been a huge blessing.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, huge.
You know, we take so much for granted here. You know, we're very blessed to live here in this country, and we just take so many things for granted.
It's amazing.
We don't realize that a regular, a normal physiological situation can just disrupt
Absolutely.
life. And children have to drop out of school because of the menstrual cycle. That is just, you just don't think about it.
Right.
So
It's been so powerful going to the principals or head woman teachers of schools where we have distributed the pads, and to talk to those teachers and just have them say, you know, these girls are thriving right in this school. And we're so thankful.
yes.
And then Susan and I, we had another thing happen between the two of us a few years ago. I was actually in Africa for 3 weeks and had very little contact with her. And at the same time, she was praying and crying out to the Lord about what to do. And at that time, we'd been telling people about drinking water and teaching them some methods for sanitizing water that wasn't pure. But we hadn't gotten into the business of wells yet, because it's expensive, right? And so we both felt called. I remember I was sitting in the airport on my way home, and I called Susan and I said, we gotta do something about water. These communities do not have water. And
So what do they do for water? Tell us what they do.
Oh, wow. They often are walking 3 and 4 hours a day. And we're talking the women and the children, both. I met a man named Richard in Mogogo village in Uganda. He was about my age. And as a young man in 1986, he'd been promised a well. The village had been promised a well, and he was a little boy, you know, gathering water. And it had taken all those years until Farm Stew finally fulfilled that promise. It was almost 30 years later. And when I met him, I was so excited because it was the same year that he'd been promised a well, was the same year when I was in high school that I learned that there was 1 billion people on the planet that didn't have water. Talk about taking things for granted, you know?
Yeah.
So they spend hours, and often they're getting water from a contaminated source. And even up in the Philippines, when I was in one of the mountain villages, we went and saw a little puddle, really, where they were getting water. And while we were there looking at it, this little girl came with her pan, and she's dipping in and then pouring into her container. And it was open. The animals could be there, and anything washing down from the mountains above could go in there.
So you have sewage in there, you have animal debris in there, you have just everything.
Yes.
And that's
exactly.
why there's so much disease, because there's no pure water.
Yes. And you know, you think about what we've been through as a world through COVID, and it's been so tragic and so disruptive. But every single year, 3 million children die of hunger-related diseases, and 3.4 million children die of water and sanitation-related diseases. Those aren't things that make the news, but they are things that tear at the heart of God. We know Jesus is going to ask us, what did you do for the least of these? And I feel like those are the people that he's talking about. They're hungry, they're thirsty, they're naked, you know, and so with Farm Stew, in partnership with our church members around the world, we can address these issues.
Yes.
We're very excited about the water wells. We're so thankful that we are able to go into the different countries, and so we've been able to build or repair 55 water wells so far. And as far as the organization of Farm Stew International, and Joy and I, we did really feel as if the Lord impressed upon us that if we're going to ask people to drink water for their health, then we need to help provide the water. And the Lord has really created that opportunity. And now we also have a village drill that actually is now in the Philippines, where they can use it to drill their well themselves. So they work together as a community to make that happen. And
So you provide a drill that is not, it's drilled by the locals.
Yeah, we started using the traditional just big rig truck and everything to drill some of these wells, but then it was expensive, like $10,000 to even $12,000 per well. And we learned about this tool called the village drill, which is a hand-powered machine, and it's quite powerful. It can go down 145 feet, which is sufficient in many of the areas. And it takes almost a week of human power to do it. But then, they really have skin in the game. And we have one in Uganda that's already drilled 12 wells. And so that the total 55 wells is providing water for at least 16,000 people.
Oh, that's tremendous.
Yes, and in the mountains in the Philippines where we were talking, you really couldn't get a truck up in those mountains. So this apparatus, the village drill, can be taken apart and carried in by hand, which is what's going to be required to get it to some of these villages.
So is it very heavy? Is it?
Some of the components are quite heavy, but I tell you, people are so motivated to get water that they will do anything, because all the work of water is heavy, hauling it day in and day out. We call it freedom from disease and drudgery is our priority that focuses on the wells. We want people to not have that life of drudgery and be free from disease.
But we also wanted to make sure that, you give people hope, and you have, fresh water, and everyone's very excited, and then they break down. And a lot of wells have broken down in the past, and you can see pictures of people walking past the broken down ones. And so we decided as an organization that if we're going to give people that hope, we want to make sure that it can be repaired. So we provide the training so that they can repair it, or they also contribute money into a community fund to help pay for repair if they needed to. So it's been a really great thing for the...
So you're training people to repair the broken wells? If they break down, now there's somebody there that can repair them?
Yes.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Because, as you were talking, Susan, I was thinking, people see the broken... First they have the well, and now, wow, we have some clean water finally. And then it breaks down, and no one can fix it. You don't know how it works or anything. So you're saying that now someone from their group can learn to fix them and repair them, and now they can keep the fresh water.
Exactly. And when we associate all that we do giving Jesus the glory, and you say, Jesus is the living water, and then you have a well, and if it breaks down, we feel like we have an obligation to do things in a proper way and do that training of trainers so that really the power is in the community itself to solve their own problems. And that's the goal. That's the abundant life that we believe Jesus is talking about.
I think that's just so amazing. So how are you, as you're growing, what's the response that you're getting in the communities? How are they responding to what you're doing?
They absolutely love the training. When you go, people, they want to cook all the different foods that we've taught them how to cook, and they want to share everything that they have learned. And honestly, it's been such a blessing, because even the churches, we were invited, for example, into South Sudan by the president of the church there. Now we've been invited into the Philippines, and we're being invited so many places. And that's really why we're here giving this update, is just to share that God is expanding, and he's asking us, we use Isaiah 54, there's verse 2 and 3 that says that we should open our curtains wide, stretch them out, strengthen our cords, lengthen them, and then we should go to the right and the left. And I feel like that's the verse that inspired me to say yes to the Philippines, or yes to Bolivia, where we now have 1,000 manuals that are being distributed throughout Latin America, or yes to digital health evangelism. All of that is because God is asking us to stretch, and we're here to ask, your listening audience to stretch with us.
Absolutely, and to support. And we have your address and phone number. I know that you're going to want to reach out to Farm Stew International and support. It's Farm Stew, P.O. Box 291, Princeton, Illinois 61356. What's the hi at Farm Stew? That's your email address?
Yeah.
Hi at farmstew.org. And you can go to the website. The website is really also very informative. It's farmstew.org. That's farmstew.org. The phone number is 815-200-4925. That's 815-200-4925. And so this is how we can reach you. How can we support what you're doing? What do you need from the listeners and the viewers?
Well, I would like to share this quote from the Spirit of Prophecy, because it ties in with what you're asking. It says, when right methods of cultivation are adopted, there will be far less poverty than now exists. We intend to give the people practical lessons upon the improvement of the land, and thus induce them to cultivate their land now lying idle. If we accomplish this, we have done good missionary work. And so we have been given instruction through God's holy word, through the Spirit of Prophecy, how to, with biblical principles, how to further this work, how to do the training, how to develop the curriculum. And so what we ask for is your prayers, because we need prayers to have wisdom, to know which countries to go into, how do we continue to grow this organization, how to find fantastic trainers and volunteers that are willing to put their time into this. And then obviously for an organization to grow, we need funds, we need donations, and the donors with 3ABN have been so generous. But obviously there's more work that needs to be done, and there is a great need. We've had many different countries ask if we can come. Our program is free. You can go online and you can have the whole program for free. And so we want to be able to continue giving that. But as with anything, it takes money to do that. So
absolutely. Well, thank you so much for what you're doing. May God continue to bless you. And I know that our viewers and listeners are going to step up and do something. Jesus said that when we've helped the least of these, those who are suffering and just can't seem to find a way out, we've done it unto him. We can assist those in need by supporting ministries like Farm Stew, helping others by giving them practical tools to make a living and sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ. You might not be able to go over there. You might not be able to physically leave where you are, but you can support. And so I ask you to go on their website and support them. I can't believe our time is up. Thank you for joining us. Join us next time, because you know what? It just wouldn't be the same without you.